Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. In today's video we are going to be talking about another beautiful plant called as the Maranta. I'll put up the name on the screen. Now the seller had told me that this is the Fascinator. I'm not very sure, do correct me if I'm incorrect, but it is a plant from the family of Marantaceae. A little bit tricky for the beginners. As you can see, I am having a very hard time keeping them because I belong to a very dry environment. Despite the utmost care that I can give it, it still has a little bit of issues, especially the browning on the edges. And this is related with the environment because today my city is recording a temperature of around 26 degrees Celsius, but the major factor is the humidity. It's around 32%, which is very critical for Calatheas. But I'm trying my best because I don't have an option to use a humidifier because all of my plants are outdoor and you cannot use a humidifier outdoor. So the best what I can do is I can fill a container with a little bit of 1/4 water, and then I tend to mist 3 times during the afternoons, once at around 12 noon, then around 2 p.m. and then around 3:30, 4 p.m. I tend to mist them so that it can be a little bit more cooler. The misting doesn't help a lot, it is just temporary, but at least it can cool down the heat around this place where it's kept. It's kept in indirect bright light, so it is getting a good amount of air circulation as well as a good amount of light. And the browning is because of the dry air in the environment. I can't do much about it, but so far the plant is still doing quite well. This was the new leaf that has recently come up. It's larger than the rest of them, which means that it is doing quite well. If your plant tends to put out smaller leaves than the previous one, that means there is something going wrong. But over here I am a little bit relaxed that at least the new leaf is a little bit more bigger than the older leaves, which is a very good sign so far. But let's see how it works. Probably if next month it gets even more hot, or if there is a lot of dry air, then I'll use a clear plastic sheet over it to increase the amount of humidity. That is the last option that I can do. Now, as I said, that this is a little bit tricky plant for a lot of beginners. If you are from a very dry environment and you are a person who cannot give full attention to plants, then please do not get this plant because it can be quite tricky for you. Now, talking about the light requirements, this plant does quite well in indirect bright light. Do not expose it to direct sunlight. This plant can be grown indoor as well as outdoor. If you are from a place wherein the temperatures are getting very hot or very cold, because they are very sensitive towards temperature. If it's very cold or very hot, then you can move this indoor and keep it near a windowsill where it gets a good amount of indirect bright light, but the sun does not directly fall onto the leaves. Now, talking about the soil, I tend to use the same soil mix, which is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. They prefer a slight amount of moisture in the soil, but not soggy wet soil. They like well draining soil, loose soil, so it's best to use a little bit of sand and perlite. These plants are native to the Brazilian rainforest, so you can understand what kind of environment they have. It's slightly cooler, a good amount of humidity, and that's how they tend to do quite well. The soil is rich in organic matter because of all the leaves that tend to fall. They tend to grow on the forest floors, so you can understand the type of soil mix that they need, which is very rich, loose, porous and well draining. Now, talking about watering, that is the most important thing. Please do not keep these plants underwater for a very long time. They are not drought tolerant. They will immediately start to curl the leaves and they will get crispy. Once they start to curl and close inwards, they tend to look like a roll of paper. If that happens, then it's very difficult to unroll them. Even after watering it, a lot of times those leaves will dry out and fall off. So be extremely careful, especially during summers. Try to maintain a slight amount of moisture. Do a frequent watering. Whenever you see upper layer of soil is dry, go ahead and do a complete watering. Do not keep them underwatered. Do not keep them under a air conditioning vent or a heater. That will damage the leaves. Temperature and humidity, as I said, they belong to the Brazilian rainforest. They are tropical plants. They need a lot of humidity, especially a humidity that is going to be above 60%, 70%, 80%, 90% is perfect for them. But unfortunately, we stay in such an environment that it's very difficult to provide that kind of care. So you have to give extra care by misting a little bit, keeping some water container beneath, or if you're growing it indoor, you can use a humidifier because humidity is the most important thing for this plant. You can keep this plant in the bathroom as well because there's a lot of humidity. You can keep it near the kitchen. If you have a window near the kitchen and there is a good amount of indirect bright light, you can keep it in the kitchen. You can keep it in the bathroom as long as you are getting a good amount of light. Talking about fertilizers, you can do it right now because now it's summers, it's their growing period. You can add fertilizers. During winters, please do not add any fertilizers because they tend to go into dormancy. They tend to stop their growth. So it's best not to add any kind of fertilizers. Your watering also tends to reduce during the winters, but during summers, you'll have to increase the frequency of watering. Again, this all depends upon your environment and climate, how dry or how your environment is. According to that, you have to check that the upper layer of soil is dry, and only then go ahead and water it. Now, talking about propagation, it's pretty simple to propagate. You can do a root division, or they will start putting out offsets. You can separate them and then put them into another pot. I've already made a video on it. I will put the link in the description below. You can check it out, how to propagate your Calatheas, Maranthas or Stormenthos. It's all the same process. So the propagation is pretty simple. You can either, if you tend to find a rhizome, you can separate the rhizome along with roots, or if you want to do a root division, you can do that as well. Over the period of time, the plant gets really bushy, so that's when you can do a root division, or you can propagate them. Now, talking about, is this plant toxic? No, Calatheas and Maranthas are not toxic. That is a good thing. So you can keep it anywhere in the house or in your garden. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.